Hey there, friends. Troubling news yesterday on Saturday. There were 4 young girls aged 9 to 17 who were shot in a movie theater by a crazy person, a crazy white male. You didn't hear about that, right? Had you not heard about the white man who went into the AMC movie theater and shot 4 young girls? Oh wait, maybe I got some of the information wrong.
4 girls, all minors, were stabbed in a Braintree movie theater in an apparent random attack. Thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Christina Rex. This attack may have been one in a string of incidents. I-Team sources say the suspect is believed to be wanted for a murder in Connecticut. That same man is believed to then have traveled to Braintree and Plymouth, allegedly attacking people along the way before his car burst into flames in Sandwich and he was arrested. WBZ's Laura Hafley is live in Braintree. Laura, so police had already been looking for this man?
If that's right, our WBZ I-Team sources did confirm that this suspect is believed to be wanted for murder in Connecticut. You're about to see photos and videos of who our I-Team sources have confirmed is in fact the suspect involved. Connecticut State Police did put out a bolo earlier today describing this person as armed, dangerous, and carrying a knife, a similar weapon to what was used in tonight's attacks here in Braintree.
One call right now, possible stabbing.
Moviegoers in Braintree forced to run for their lives Saturday night after police say a suspect went on a stabbing spree, attacking 4 young girls inside of a movie theater.
There's going to be more than one victim. I believe there's 2 or 3.
This is a lot. This is like quite a few stretchers I've seen go in. This is not good.
According to the Braintree Police Department, all 4 victims under the age of 17 were rushed to a nearby hospital with injuries.
The 2 little girls were crying.
AMC employee Nate Lewis was behind the snack counter when the attack began, and he watched as the suspect escaped.
I caught a quick glimpse of a guy he ran into theater number 2, and apparently he stabbed a couple of little girls there. I noticed he was wearing an oversized trench coat, sunglasses, a long blonde wig.
The violence didn't stop there. Police say a short time later, the same suspect was involved in what they're calling a similar assault, but this time in Plymouth. Using surveillance video, a license plate, and a multi-agency effort, police tracked down the attacker's car and began pursuing the vehicle, which ultimately crashed in Sandwich Saturday evening. The suspect with blonde hair pulled out of the car, placed onto a stretcher, and taken into custody.
It's so heartbreaking. I think that was the first thing that I'm going to be thinking about the rest of the night, is seeing those kids coming down the steps and just crying. And they looked really stunned, like they just saw a horror movie, not a kid's movie.
The name of the suspect or the charges have not yet been released. The 4 young girls who were attacked here tonight are expected to be okay.
There you go, guys. The media seems to be struggling with this story. This is one of those if it bleeds, it leads types of stories. However, not gun related. Had this been a white man, which we're going to get more into that here in a second, which it was, this would be everywhere if he had used a gun. Think about this. The Aurora, Colorado, Lafayette, Louisiana, these were movie theater shootings that took place, and they were everywhere. Strike fear in the hearts of Americans from coast to coast. Because you never know when somebody's going to walk into the movie theater and shoot you indiscriminately, right? This was with a knife. Don't really care about the human lives after all, do you? The 4 people that were stabbed, not really a big deal, right? In fact, this person is tied to even a murder. So somebody, by the hands of this same person, died. Not really that big of a deal because a gun wasn't involved. This is a clear-cut case that the news media, politicians, and the anti-gun movement really don't care about the lives. They only care about the implement being used to take lives or attempt to take lives. Another reason why the media will run from this like the new strain of COVID is the very fact that this is another gender pretender. Here's another sequel in the Revenge of the Gender Pretender saga. The series continues. Notice no one in the news media wants to be talking about this. You have to dig either here or Libs of TikTok. I found this on X. where they talk about Jared Revisa, who is the killer because he did in fact kill somebody. And they do mention here, of course, that this is a trans activist who thinks he's a woman. He is pretending to be a woman, which is not normal. Been seeing a lot of that lately, have you? Less than 1%. This says despite being 1% of the population, these people are less than 1%. We're talking about gender pretenders, transgender people, and quote, gender fluid, whatever that means. my definition of gender fluid is a little bit different. It's more of a noun, not a description. But nevertheless, these are some familiar faces that we have seen. It's amazing to me that a large part of the population committing crimes of this type of nature are a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the actual population, which means that it is a humongous percentage of their own community committing these crimes. This is a problem. This is a problem of the mind. Now, the one benefit that we can take from this particular stabbing is the fact that if there were more items, implements, tools used to attack people or take people's lives, like baseball bats, cars, moving vans, knives, beer bottles, and guns, then at some point, a reasonable person, not the people who are pushing this same narrative, but a reasonable person might sit back and look and go, maybe a gun isn't the problem, because we have the same types of activity taking place of random people who are over medicated and have a mental disorder like this transgender mess that's going on, and they're still killing people, and it's not really gun related anymore. It might actually be a person problem. So this is really, I guess, if you have to find a glass half full, this is a positive thing that I think. Again, this is only going to apply to reasonable people, not the nut jobs who know they're lying and they know they're setting up a narrative. But nevertheless, this at least takes the eye off of the shiny thing that they continue to put in front of everybody's face and makes people think with a logical amount of reasoning and go, well, this is a common theme that I'm seeing here, and the common theme is not a gun. The common theme is somebody who's a nut job trying to take people's lives for no reason. These people have done their best to try to not only lash out at everybody else, but also to send the message that they are not going to have it. They're not going to be the ones that are going to be, quote, bullied. Meanwhile, they're bullying you to try to get you to go along with their pretend game that they are something that they are in fact physically and scientifically not. So once again, we go down this road of turning the other way whenever a distinct group of people are attacking other people and nobody wants to talk about it. But I'm going to talk about it. I've talked in the past about how some of these women who are pretending to be men go on these rages, like the Nashville shooter. The reason why is because you're pumping their bodies with testosterone. It is a female body, and it's not meant to have testosterone in it. It increases rage, different types of anxiety, anger, and then on top of that, these people in some cases are embarrassed of themselves, and they have issues. Obviously, they already have mental issues, so they get on SSRIs with black box warnings that increase their level of suicide ideation and homicidal ideation, as well as additional anxiety and mania and things like that. These medicines are provoking that further. So they're already not meant to be on that. So in this case, we have a little bit different situation because it's a man pretending to be a woman, which he is not. He is, in fact, has the Franks and Beans down there. Whenever you put, it's kind of the opposite of what we talked about with the testosterone, when we're putting estrogen into a man's body. The amount that goes into stopping the male features of hair growth on the face, different things, hair growth on the chest, you have to put so much estrogen in there that it's not, the body is not meant for that much of it. I'm not trying to be funny here, but it increases moodiness, right? mood swings and things of that nature. And guess what? These people are still on SSRIs, not meant to be. All that's doing is they get on these SSRIs because of anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and depression, and the actual side effects are suicidal thoughts, anxiety, and depression. They're taking these medications for these things that in fact cause these things. So what is the positive upside to even taking them? Just the thought of doing it to act like you're doing something so that you can tell, oh, I need to go get my medicine. I did a little bit of digging on some more studies because, again, in my mind, I truly want to help people. I want to help people, including the gender pretenders. I don't want to see gender pretenders mowing down innocent people or stabbing innocent people just because they have a screw loose and nobody will help them. I've said this before and I'll continue to say this. When a person has schizophrenia and they ask you, do you hear those voices? Do you go to them and say, yeah, man, I hear them. Good on you. Go schizophrenia. Let's fly a flag. Why would you do that with this mental condition? Why would you celebrate the mental condition that they have? That's outlined in the DSM-5 book, by the way. Gender dysphoria is a treatable mental disorder. So why would you celebrate it instead of helping that person get in treatment? If they had schizophrenia, you would help them get treatment. But they have gender dysphoria, and you're like, cool, I'm going to buy one of your t-shirts. That's not helping. Again, as I've stated before, sometimes this is their cry for help. And instead of you saying, let me help you and give them a hug, you high-five them and say, let's buy a t-shirt. Let's make a poster and run down there and celebrate your mental disorder. So I did a little bit of digging, and these people are in fact at a very high rate prescribed these SSRIs. The findings may suggest that gender identity differences have minimal influence on a prescriber's decision to initiate antidepressant therapy or add adjunctive antidepressant agents. In terms of antidepressant class utilization, SSRIs were the most commonly prescribed antidepressant class among TGNB. That's transgender, what's the other, what did I just say? Gender neutral patients, which is in line with antidepressant prescribing data for the general population. So what they're saying is that they're saying it's not any more as far as the rate of prescribing SSRIs to the transgender people, the people pretending to be a different gender. They're just saying that it lines up with the rest of the population. Well, the rest of the population is over-medicated too. So you're over-medicating a really small subset of people that already have a mental disorder. Now, to be clear, I'm not making fun of people who have a mental disorder. I'm mad about the fact that nobody's trying to get them help. But anyone who has a mental condition should get help, and we should care for those people. But when they refuse help, and whenever they try to force you to play along with their game, all they're doing is cementing the fact that maybe they're refusing help, but also they really do have a screw loose, and they're pushing harder into the direction and making it harder for people to actually help them. Because if a person is going to get belligerent, wear t-shirts saying that if you don't accept me, I'm going to get an AR-15 and possibly shoot you, why would you want to spend any time with that person? And certainly, why would you want to get intimate as far as talking about feelings with somebody who has already expressed a desire to shoot people who don't agree with their mental disorder? Another thing that I wanted to point out that was kind of eye-opening, we're seeing this increase and this uptick in, obviously, the trans community getting bold, brazen, and flat-out bullying people and trying to get them to force them to believe in their little fantasy world. You might be thinking, how and when did this start? Well, it's a long story, and obviously in my book, How to Make a Monster, where I talk about over-medication for the wrong reasons, it goes back to that. We're rewiring brains that would grow in a natural way if we were not putting these chemicals into them. But looking at this chart right here, if you notice, this is the number of gender identity-related diagnoses by year. Look in 2005 to 2013. Look how few there were. Look how few. This is unbelievable. And I don't know if this is per thousand or what it is, but nevertheless, the graph shows what you need to see. If you look in the early years, you have upwards to say about 12 that were identified. Transgender female, transgender male, non-binary. Look at the numbers, how much they jumped up in 2014 to 2021. That 7-year period, you've got a massive spike in that. Almost a four times as many people who are claiming that they are that. So we're seeing a direct correlation between the number of people claiming that they are a gender that they're not, and we're also seeing a spike during the same time frame of people lashing out, killing or shooting, stabbing other people. So obviously we have a problem. Note the mainstream media does nothing to point this problem out. In fact, if they tried, let's be honest here, maybe somebody has tried. If they try, they get ostracized. They will get blackballed. They won't be invited into the White House press room to talk to anybody because, oh, now they're bigots. You know, they're pointing out, you know, their study might be full of facts, but because I like transgender people, that's bigoted. It amazes me how, just like I try to do in my videos, you can prevent straight facts, 100% facts, but be called a bigot because they don't like your facts. It doesn't mean your facts are wrong. It just means I don't like your facts, bigot. There's a lot more that will come out in this story. I'm going to dig for it because you will likely not hear much from the mainstream media unless they find a gun. If they can find a gun somewhere and say that this person's gun jammed so they used a knife instead, but they wanted to use a gun, you're not going to hear much about this. It's going to go away. So I will continue on this because this goes in the same bucket as all of the tranny people who have shot people. I don't care what tool they use. I think we need to stop classifying things based on what the person used, a shovel, beer bottle, baseball bat, and start looking at the people who are doing this, because that's how you focus on the problem. If you scatter it out to everybody else, you muddy the waters and you will never drill down to the actual problem. I think we're pretty close to figuring out there is a problem right now. The gender pretending community has an issue, and it's a violence issue. And we need to start calling it trans violence, because gun violence ain't cutting it, and knife violence, nobody wants to talk about it. It's not sensational enough. I would like to say this. Let me give you a smidgen of advice. Right now, at least where we stand now, as long as we're celebrating a mental disorder instead of trying to help people get the assistance they need to get rid of it, or at least treat it accordingly. If you are in a bar, a church, grocery store, a restaurant, a school, and you see a big, burly, ape-looking guy with a wig on and a bunch of lipstick, that ain't normal. Quietly leave. If you see some big, burly, butchy chick come rolling in with her flannel shirt sleeves rolled up, a pack of cigarettes under there, walking like a dude with a little bit of hair, probably about as little bit as I have on my lip right here because I'm not a big mustache grower, leave. Especially if they're wearing a trench coat like this person was wearing the night he walked into this AMC movie theater yesterday and stabbed people. If you see these people, I would say be nice to anybody unless they start shooting or stabbing at you. You know what I mean? Certainly don't start shooting at them unless they're presenting themselves as a danger. But if you see them, I would leave. They have a screw loose. They have been emboldened by the media and politicians. And they are, in many cases, the tip of the spear as far as madness in this country. As long as we continue to accept madness like this and refuse that it needs help, that opens the doors up for all kinds of other ailments and screw jobs out there that are going to ask for the same things. Men who like boys. We've already heard that. Things like that are going to start to try to get normalized, because now instead of us recognizing a mental disorder for what it is, we're supposed to accept it and celebrate it. And I don't think that's right. One last thing that I want to point out, and it's going to be a light-hearted thing, and this is my video and my channel, so I can say things how I want, even if it's offensive to some people, even whenever I have some dark humor in light of a very negative situation like this story. This person, this transgender, this gender pretender man who was pretending to be a woman ran from law enforcement, and guess where he crashed his vehicle? In a town called Sandwich. I would like to point out to this person pretending to be a woman that you don't have to be a woman to make me a sandwich.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so horrible.